Hello there, my fellow hockey fans. Hardcore Puckhead is here, and this is it. The home stretch. There is 1 week left in the regular season, and entering that final week, it is done. All the Western Conference's playoff spots are now filled. The Nashville Predators entered tonight with the chance to clinch a playoff spot. All they had to do was get to overtime, but they didn't do that. They were defeated 4-1. However, Sunday night ended with the Kings defeated at home in regulation by the Coyotes 2-1, and that put that loss put the Predators into the Stanley Cup playoffs, giving them that last spot. As for the Kings, however, this is the second time in 3 years that they will miss out the playoffs, and this comes after a stretch of winning 2 Stanley Cups in 3 years. So Daryl Sutter and other powers that be had to figure out what went wrong and fix things in LA. Otherwise, there could be another bad stretch for the City of Angels. So, so that's settled. And of course, we had a division clinching the day before. Um, it was yesterday, early yesterday, that the Blackhawks locked up the Central as well as the number one seed in the entire Western Conference. So So the Blackhawks will face one of the wild cards. At the moment, it's Nashville, but things can change. Like I said, all eight playoff spots in the Western Conference are clinched. Now it's a matter of positioning, and there's a lot to solve in the Pacific, as it's still very close. The Ducks win over Calgary, put them back in first place, 2 points ahead of Edmonton, and Edmonton's, I think, what, a point ahead of San Jose, and Calgary's close ahead. We could see Calgary move up probably to second or possibly win the division. Who knows? Actually, no, they can't win it. I take that back. They can't win the division. They can't finish higher than second, which is still good. And in last week's recap, I mentioned the possibility of the Battle of Ontario happening in the playoffs. The same could be said for the Oilers and Flames. Could we see the Battle of Alberta in the playoffs for the first time since I think it's 1991? That's a long time. That's a long time. It's been 15 years since the Maple Leafs and Senators faced each other in the playoffs. It's been 26 since the Battle of Alberta happened in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that's because after that both teams fell off. Either one would make it, the other would make it, but almost never both. The last time both Alberta teams made the playoffs was 2006, and of course that year was after the lockout. So technically, the Flames were defending Western Conference champions, and of course the Oilers would become the Western Conference champions that year, make it to the final, and they would fall one, and the Oilers would fall one win short and not make the playoffs again until officially on Tuesday. So in a week, all the Western Conference spots were filled. There are 3 spots total left in the playoffs, and you have three teams in the Atlantic in prime position, and there's 3 other teams chasing them. Another elimination happened. The Philadelphia Flyers became one of the 2 latest eliminations tonight. The Bruins' victory over the Blackhawks in Chicago, mind you, and the Flyers losing to the Rangers put Philadelphia out of the playoffs. This is a year after they snagged one of the wild card spots the last day of the season. So and and we still have Carolina. Carolina's still alive. The Islanders are still alive. And Tampa Bay's still alive. Those are the only 3 bubble teams left. Ottawa has been knocked back down to the second wild card position. They have fallen off ever since they were last in first place. Ever since that head-to-head game against Montreal, the 18th, Ottawa has fallen off. Now, I'm not saying they're in danger of missing the playoffs, but they're definitely in danger of being knocked down to a wild card and having to, and actually, if the playoffs started, they would face Washington. Now, granted, Washington has a shaky history of blowing it in the playoffs, but even so, you do not want to start the playoffs playing against the team that will most likely win the President's Trophy. And Boston, Boston is actually in second place after being in the wild card bubble for weeks, and now that jinx could be broken. It was not well. Two back-to-back years isn't the jinx, but considering the team won the cup 6 years ago and played in the final in 2013, 4 years ago, and 3 years ago they had the President's Trophy. Missing the playoffs 2 years straight after that, that's a huge step down. But this will be a good, big, huge feather in their caps if they make the playoffs. Uh, Everything will be settled in the final week. And as far as eliminations, the next elimination could happen as soon as tomorrow. If both Ontario teams win tomorrow night, there's only 3 games playing, and they're all in the Atlantic Division. Um, Everybody except Boston and Tampa are playing tomorrow, though Boston and Tampa played each other on Tuesday, and that could be the game that puts Boston in the playoffs. All they have to do is probably win in regulation, probably beat Tampa in regulation, and they would get in. And if both Ontario teams win tomorrow night, Carolina is done, and that's pretty heartbreaking considering the Canes have been on a bit of a tear lately. They picked up point. Until tonight they had a 13-game point streak that was broken tonight when they went to Pittsburgh and got beat. That and positioning and speed of Pittsburgh positioning just kind of shaping up. Pittsburgh's win clinched a top 3 spot for them, and that it does look like it's going to be them and Columbus in the first round, but they're still positioning to figure out there. It does seem like Washington's a foregone conclusion to win the Metropolitan, so Pittsburgh and Columbus will have to duke it out for who will get home ice in that series, and, and the Habs are a hair away from winning the Atlantic Division, and but they'll have to face the Rangers in the first round, possibly, and well, most likely. And the Rangers are pretty tough, and so as I said, there's still a lot to decide. There's only 3 playoff spots left. 3 more divisions need to be decided, and the President's Trophy will always be rewarded sometime during this final week of the season. But it's going to be absolutely crazy positioning, and we could see so much change. So much could change. Um, like I said, Columbus needs to kind of shape up if they want home ice the first round. If they want home ice in game one of the series against whoever, and Ottawa better wake up. Otherwise, they could be looking at a playoff date against Washington and possibly a short series. We don't know. And like I said, the West, like I said, positioning still needs to be solved. Um, Chicago and Minnesota are locked in as top 3 team as two of the top 3 teams in the Central. So they're going to finish at least in third place. Right now, third place is between St. Louis and Nashville, and St. Louis is I think 4 points away from locking in the top 3 spot. Most likely we'll probably see Blues Wild in the first round. That should be pretty good. And the Ducks are a top 3 team, and if the season ended, they'll face Calgary. That's gonna be a good series. I think it is, and so will San Jose and Edmonton. If if the standings stay where they are, anything, a lot could change. We'll know in the final week. It's gonna be an amazing final week. And on that note, I'll just say, please, hockey fans, enjoy this final week responsibly. Especially if you actually have a dog in this fight. I actually don't, but as a hardcore hockey fan, I'm looking forward to this final week. So, again, I'll post videos sometime during this week. Congratulations to the Predators for getting in, and we'll see what happens. Until then, until sometime later this week. No, until sometime later this week, hockey, my fellow hockey fans. Enjoy this week very responsibly.